Okay, so let's get this Monday webinar cranking. The thing that I always like to talk about right in the very beginning, you guys all know that I offer a free trial to the trade group, and I always like to remind everybody on Mondays that this is a great time to start the free trial because you get an entire week to kind of try things out, see what you think. I do get some free trials starts on Thursday night and Friday morning, and half of that's burned up over the weekend because we don't do too much over the weekend. But this is a great time to start the free trial and have a look at the trade group. You can do it by going to daytradersfx.com and clicking on Start Now. Okay. So that's that. Let's have a look at what we have coming up in the news this week, and it should be some pretty good stuff. The next big announcement, or big-ish announcement, is Australia, and we have monetary policy meeting minutes, central bank stuff, and that is in just a little over 2 hours from now. And then there's nothing else too exciting for several hours after that. But then going into Tuesday, we have some CPI news out of the UK, we have some German zoo, we have building permits from the US, CPI US, and then Wednesday it gets pretty exciting. We have the MPC bank vote from the UK, as well as asset purchase votes, and those can always be a little bit tricky. They don't change very much, but now we've had all this rumoring of the Bank of England changing rates and hiking rates before the market expected, which was a quote from Carney. And so that is going to make things interesting. We could see some more rallying on pound pairs with that news on Wednesday. And then later in the day on Wednesday, we have the FOMC statement and press conference. That's a huge thing for the dollar. So, dollar pairs might just be a little tiny bit slower until that Wednesday, we get a bunch of big activity out of the UK and US. So it's always a big deal. GDP numbers from New Zealand. Thursday, we have some retail sales for the UK, one of my favorite announcements. We have some Swiss franc news, some US news, and then going into Friday, we have some Canadian news only, just out of Canada, which is good because we're watching a lot of Canadian pairs pretty regularly. So let's have a little peek. Let's look at what's going on on a bunch of these pairs here. So first off, euro dollar. Remember, the euro dollar was it's getting a little bit extended here. The picture that we're looking at on euro dollar is on this 4-hour chart, kind of this bigger setup. Remember, the euro dollar is looking something like this. This is what we've been talking about. Remember, we had this big price rejection candle right here. And then it came all the way back down, but in the process, from this high to this low right here, we crossed the 23% fib and did not reach the 38. And we know that when we cross that 23, there's such an excellent chance of reaching that 38, and it didn't do it, and it pulled back, and that low has held. So I still like being long with stops below 13500, just below 13500, like 5 to 10 pips below 13500, and looking for a move up into approximately 13700. I think we have a decent chance of getting up into the 13700 area on euro dollar. At that point, we're probably going to be looking for some major shorts from euro dollar. But our first move, first part of the week, is looking for opportunities to get long euro dollar with stops below 13500, profit target 13700. We're sitting right now at about 135.75, so I'd probably like to see it pull back 25 or 30 pips before getting long euro dollar. But it's a good looking setup right there. So remember, that's one of the reasons we're getting in, is that fib play right there. It's such a good fib play. And the other thing is our 4-hour chart is just big time oversold. So this thing has really made a pretty significant run here. It's about 165 bars on the 4-hour chart from the 200 moving average. So there's a really nice chance of getting that move up. You can see on my 4-hour chart as well on this euro dollar, we have this little kind of short-term double top right here, and that's at about 135.80. So if we don't get much pullback, a break above 135.80 would probably be enough to get us in, and kind of play that from the short to medium term kind kind of move. Look for 50 pips out of that one, but hopefully we can get it up into 136, 80, 90. It could be good for a nice 100 pip move. So watch that break of 135.80, but ideally let's see if we can get in around 135, 30, 40. Maybe even 135.50 with stops below 135.00, and let's target this 137.00. So that's what I'm looking for on Eurodollar. Our initial move is to try to buy some dips, and then the next move after that, which could be later in this week, or it could be even into next week. So buying as soon as possible, and then shorting end of the week, early next week even. So we'll just kind of see how that goes. But let's definitely try to get long Eurodollar. Okay, pound dollar. We've got a pound dollar short already right before the news, and the news hit, and the pound dollar went crazy last week from Carney's news, and here it is running all the way up and kind of doing all this mumbo jumbo. The pound dollar is just getting so interesting. Remember I said I really, really, really badly want to see the pound dollar run higher, even though we got into a short, because I love the opportunity of being able to short this at continual higher prices. Now we have to let the news kind of subside a little bit, so there's a very, very slim chance that I would add any shorts to the pound dollar at this point until after the news on Wednesday. So until then, I'm definitely not going to be trying to jump in any more on this pound dollar. But Wednesday, late morning Wednesday, we could absolutely be looking to add some more pound dollar shorts. This thing is setting up perfectly. We've moved our stops. We hedged our position. Some may have been stopped out because you can't hedge, and if you were stopped out, it was a pretty small stop. The rest of us have hedged our position at 168.50 with entries, around 168.20 area. So there's a pretty minimal lock-in on that whole situation. It's run up very nicely. We've seen the pound dollar try to get above 170. Getting a daily open above 170 kind of opens up a lot of possibilities and opportunities for this thing to move significantly higher. If that happens, that's super great. We're probably going to be looking at 170. 170, 100, 170, 200 in that general vicinity to be shorting pound dollar. If it does not in the next day or so here, before all the news and so on, open above 170, it has spiked up here a little bit, but we need to see a daily open above 170. If that doesn't happen, then we could be ready to add another short right around this 170 area. So again, we're just not going to be able to tell until after the news on Wednesday. But we're going to keep a good eye on it. Things could change, tonight, tomorrow, and I'll keep you guys posted. Those that are members of the group, you guys will see my updates every day on this, and you'll know exactly what we're doing. But I do love that it's run up. I love that it's giving us an opportunity to short at a higher price. The pound dollar is getting to record overbought levels on the daily chart, like record levels. And you can see that that it's just going and going and going and going crazy. So we are just looking for those opportunities. We're leaving more missed pivots down here. You can see the daily chart has a whole bunch. It's going to take a minute to load. We have a whole bunch of missed daily and weekly pivots down here. Multiple daily and weekly pivots down there, and then we're just leaving another one again this week, which is this guy right here, about 169.00. And so we'll see what happens, but I will be ready to put on any additional positions as soon as possible. But for the moment, we're going to leave our pound dollar hedge in place. Stops are at break even, and we're going to let this thing run. So remember, the daily chart is crazy overbought, and the 1 hour chart is slowly working its way into that area. The 1 hour chart could definitely go another day or two before it gets really interesting. So probably another 2 days. Right around Wednesday, the 1 hour chart starts getting pretty interesting, and we could put in some nice little shorts on that one. But right now, the big focus is on that daily chart and that daily entry there. I haven't even looked at the 15-minute chart, to be honest, on this pound dollar. It looks pretty intense. This 15-minute chart is quite a ways out on pound dollar. So So yeah, it's really getting extended, and it's really setting up nicely to give us some of those shorts as soon as possible. But again, the 1 hour chart is going to look a lot better in the next 48 hours, right around there. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, Aussie dollar. I haven't done a lot with the Aussie dollar, US dollar specifically. We are in an Aussie dollar trade, Aussie CAD. But it's starting to get a little bit slightly borderline interesting, the Aussie dollar is. The 1 hour chart really specifically is kind of our interesting chart here. It seems to be stalling out at these upper levels. The 1 hour chart's getting decently extended, and it's probably starting to get ready for a bit of a move down. We have a missed weekly pivot from last week down here at about 9,300, so just about 100 pips below current market price. I'm not ready to do anything just yet on Aussie dollar, but I will be watching super closely as this week goes on, and we'll be looking for some potential entries if they present themselves on the Aussie dollar. So just kind of keep that one under your hat. Okay, I'm checking for comments real quick. Okay, nothing. All right, sounds good. Questions, comments, guys, send them over. I'll be checking as often as possible here. Dollar CAD, just a quick little review on dollar CAD. Remember, we're watching 108.15. If 108.15 goes, we are short. We're short dollar CAD at the break of 108.15. Everyone clear on that? That's going to be a nice little trade. And we'll probably place a pending order on that going into later on today. As you can see here, none of the other charts are overextended really in any way, and so we have a pretty nice opportunity. The 1 hour chart's working on it a little bit, but there's still plenty of room for this thing to get some momentum and go for it. So that break of 108.15 should be a nice little trade, nice little entry, and we will get a pending order most likely there. And that will kind of favor, we're in an Aussie CAD trade still, and we're looking for Canadian strength against the Australian dollar, and in this case we'd be looking for a little bit of Canadian strength against the US dollar. So we'll see how that goes, but I think it's looking interesting and should play out nicely. Okay, here's another one we've talked about a lot. Here is the Euro Aussie. Again, if we see Aussie CAD come down, Aussie dollar come down, then that could make a really nice case for this Euro Aussie to come up, which I think it's going to do. So we have this huge falling wedge, and we have 1 and 2 missed weekly pivots up above. And that's about the most interesting thing. The daily chart has got the price pattern, and then the other time frames have all of that plus moving average situations here. So you can see that the 200 moving average on this on this 4 hour chart is getting nicely extended. We're about 111 bars out, and we have just come pretty darn close on the 1 hour chart to hitting the 200 moving average, but it's not there yet. So it's about 200 bars out on the 1 hour chart. So these are all, anybody that doesn't know what I'm talking about, just know that these pairs are getting pretty overextended, pretty oversold, and should be able to continue bouncing back up. Now, here's the tricky thing about Euro Aussie. Some of you guys have asked me, we get in a little bit before the price pattern breakout and so on, and the Euro Aussie I think would be a good example. One thing that I like is when we have a good solid price pattern, we can get in and kind of anticipate that breakout and get a really nice entry. Now you can see that current market price is at about 144.50, and we have the lows here of this falling wedge at about 143.50, 60. So we're just under 100 pips above that area. What I'm going to be looking for on this Euro Aussie is some retracement. If this doesn't run up and touch the 200 moving average in the next several hours, then I'm going to post a pending order to get long probably around 144.00 on Euro Aussie. So I'd like to get long around 144.00, stops below 143.50, and we've got some pretty big profit targets. Now, minimal profit targets would be around 146.50 area is what we would initially be aiming for. So you can see that that's pretty nice. That'd be a 250 pip run, and I think we can get it on this Euro Aussie. So I'm really liking that. You can see that this has been coming down pretty well. Euro Aussie has been coming down for it peaked out here in January. maybe even, yeah, so January, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're in month 6 of the Euro Aussie coming down. Nobody, it's not a popular opinion to be long Euro anything, but I don't really care. It's a good setup, so I'm going to go for it. So anyways, we should be able to pull out about 200 to 250 pips on this Euro Aussie, and it goes in line with a lot of positions that we're doing right now. We're looking for some short Aussie positions. This would be short Aussie. And we're looking for some long Euro positions, and this would be long Euro. So surprisingly, those are pretty decent setups. So Euro Aussie, again, around 144.00. As long as it doesn't hit 145.00 first. It needs to drop 50 pips before it spikes 50 pips. If it spikes 50 pips, then I'm probably not going to take the trade. But if it drops 50 pips first, then I will most likely take the trade. If it doesn't make any more recent highs above where it currently has today, then I think that's going to be a super excellent trade to get long Euro Aussie. Okay, enough about that. Hopefully that's clear. You can watch the recording 10 more times to get all that. Nothing on pound Aussie yet, but we're going to keep an eye on that one. Nothing on CAD Swiss franc, Aussie New Zealand. I looked at Aussie New Zealand a bit last night. I don't think too much has changed this morning since checking this one out. Nice little move there. Dollar Swiss franc is getting a little more interesting, but remember, we do want to see this get below 8,900. I'd like to see it get into the 88.50, and we'll probably start getting long dollar Swiss franc below 88.50 or around 88.50. Euro CAD is looking interesting, but I'm still just kind of hanging on here. We've got a great looking 4-hour chart. Everything's really looking pretty decent there. Our daily setup still tells us this should head a good little bit lower, but we could see some nice retracement coming from the 4-hour, and 1-hour charts. 1 hour is looking pretty decent on the overextended side of things. Whoops. It's always fun having a laptop mouse instead of a regular one. So 1 hour chart's looking pretty good, 130 bars. I think the 4 hour is quite a ways as well. So 4 hours, 170. So it's just a matter of time before we see a pretty decent run up on this Euro CAD. But I'm hanging tight. I don't know exactly where I want my entry to be just yet. You can see there's definitely some nice common lows here, which are looking pretty good, about 146.70. But I'm just going to keep my eyes open for just a little bit longer, and I'll keep you guys posted later in the week on Euro CAD. Okay, quick little note about pound CAD. Remember, we talked about this falling wedge on the daily chart, and the fact that was probably going to break, and it did. And so we're just going to let this run up a little bit, and we're going to start adding shorts to pound CAD. But that's going to be end of the week, most likely, even next week. But we'll see. We'll see how this pound CAD develops this week, and we could get into something. We could very potentially get into something pound CAD related sooner than later. Okay, so speaking of all these pound pairs, pound Swiss franc is looking pretty fantastic. You can see the daily chart is not in any kind of crazy situation. It's started to make a pretty nice little move here. On the daily chart, we're only about 53 bars out on the daily chart since the last time it visited the 200 moving average. I think we have a missed weekly pivot down here somewhere. I had to do my flashback thing a good little ways. But the pound Swiss franc ran up a bunch and then left this huge bearish engulfing candle right here, and that one should stay and should obviously the candle's going to close like this. One thing that I talked about, remember, was if we broke above this 151.20/30 area, that we should see some pretty good resistance at the weekly 200 moving average, and you can see that it just popped right up through, and then it looks like it's going to close. Well, I guess this is a weekly candle, but it's going to struggle at least the first part here to stay above that 200 moving average on the weekly. Again, it's starting to pull nicely away from the 200 moving average on the daily chart, but the 4-hour chart is getting crazy interesting. The 4-hour chart is is a nice little distance away. We're 170 bars on the 4-hour chart. 1-hour chart is looking pretty good. We're 135, so the 1 hour could definitely go a little bit further if this thing presses a little bit higher. Most likely we're going to be trying to get long, or excuse me, trying to get short somewhere up here. I do like the 15300 area as you know, a place to kind of anchor ourselves and get stops above that whole area. So I'm going to keep you guys posted on this, but the setup is starting to look really good, and we will most likely get a short-term and hopefully a slightly longer-term trade on CAD Swiss franc short this week. So really liking that one. That's a good setup, and I will of course keep you guys posted on that going into you know, tomorrow and the day after and the day after and so on. New Zealand dollar will be slightly on the list. Just keep an eye on that. Pound New Zealand will be a little bit on there as well. Let's talk about this pound yen for just 2 seconds here. Pound yen is right back up to this major resistance level. It just keeps getting up here and keeps on going and keeps on going. And it's just topping out. We have this 173.50 level. It just gets hit and hit and hit, and we're back up to it again. I'm not totally ready to throw on a short on this pair just yet, but I'm pretty darn close to getting ready to putting quite a few positions on here. So again, I think this one needs to play out for a day or two, but I like this pound yen a whole bunch, and I like this 173.50 level a whole bunch, and I think there's some great opportunities there to start getting short this pair. Again, that's going to be a slightly later on this week, but we're going to watch this 173.50 level super closely. If we get some opens above that, then even better. That'll give us some nice opportunities to start shorting that pound yen. Okay, last but not least, we are currently short Aussie CAD, and the Aussie CAD is looking, I don't know, the Aussie CAD is looking okay. We're in at 102.25, so we're in enough profit, but it just is having a heck of a time doing too much more than that. The daily chart looks great. We're nicely overextended on the daily chart, and it's making lower highs, which is good. So here's our high, and a little bit lower, and a little bit lower. We've still got a great chance to come down into the 200 moving average and some of these pivots and so on down here. So let's just hold on to our position. Let's hang on to it. Let's stay short Aussie CAD and just kind of see where this guy goes over the next several days, or over the next several hours and even a couple of days. So we'll see how that one plays out. But we've got some really great setups. I'm definitely excited about some of the trades that we've got in the works. So let's keep an eye on all of that. I will get this recording posted, and I will take all of your guys' questions right now.